Good morning, and welcome to my Monday messages. So, how are you doing in this heat? I normally love the heat. I'm a bit of a heat worshipper. It must be something in my blood, but I really love the sun, and the hotter the better, with a few exceptions. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I notice that my tolerance for sitting out in the heat, which normally I can do with very little ill effects for quite a long time, that goes down if I have been, maybe had a few glasses of wine the night before, or I haven't slept well, or I'm out of sorts in some way. Maybe I'm sickening for something. I'm worried about something. If my energy is being pulled in a different direction, and therefore my tolerance for what are external stressors, if you like, or toxins, lowers. And that ability to tolerate things that we can normally tolerate quite well or without noticing, not necessarily the same thing, actually gets more noticeable, especially when we are doing something internal, when we are processing something, when we are also responding to a really good homeopathic prescription. And it's what led me to the title of this, that homeopathy made me into a cheap date. When I was younger, a lot younger, we used to use that expression to describe anyone who either couldn't handle their alcohol very well, didn't take much really to get them a little bit drunk, or that they actually didn't want to drink at all. We used to call them a cheap date. So I still use that description when I'm explaining to clients, particularly clients who are new to working with homeopathy chronically rather than acutely, that part of the first thing to notice is these little things, these little changes to our ability to tolerate external stressors. Actually, the whole alcohol thing is really universal. I found it almost across the board that when we are in a healthier state, or when we're, healing in some way, the last thing that we need to do, sensibly, if you think about it, is to actually take on board more toxins. And alcohol is obviously it's the most obvious one, if you like. So my tolerance for alcohol has gone way down, and I'm really pleased with that, because when I was younger, I drank far too much. I didn't really have a very efficient off button, and I was very, very tolerant of quite high levels of alcohol, and that obviously is not healthy. It's not sustainable. So one of the first things that happened to me when I started my own homeopathic journey was that I noticed that my tolerance for alcohol went right down, and sometimes I don't want it at all. And I listen to that, because that's my body's way of saying, no, can't do this at the moment. So that's one of the first things to notice. If you don't drink, it might manifest as something like your tolerance to sugar, for example. You may find that you're actually naturally reaching for more healthy foods, less processed foods, less sugary foods. You may find that your routes of elimination are ramped up, and that is because one of the first responses to a really good homeopathic prescription is to clean house, is to, okay, if we're going to do this healing stuff, this repair work, this recalibration or rebalancing, the first thing we need to do is actually clean up the rubbish. get rid of what has been hanging around and actually is taking energy. And it takes our energy to keep moving that rubbish around. You know, if you're cleaning house yourself, literally cleaning house, the last thing you want to do is be moving sacks of rubbish around the room as you try and clean it up. The first thing you'll do is gather up anything that is not wanted and you'll chuck it out. And then you get down to the real cleaning and working out, do you need to actually, you know, decorate or re-wallpaper or whatever. And that's the same with us internally. We, one of the first responses to work towards a healthier state is to clean up and to encourage all that rubbish, whatever it is, and that can be physical, emotional, or spiritual, all three, to actually take it up, gather it up, put it together, and get it out of the body in some form. And that will vary from person to person. So whether that means that you have more bowel movements, or the nature of the bowel movements changes. You know, a lot of people report like very high smelling stools, for example, temporarily, or looser stools, or the reverse, whatever, or just peeing more, going to the loo more, you know, and equally much more thirsty. When we are working on an energetic level, we almost invariably will call for more water, because that's the way that our cells communicate with each other. We need water to do that. Water is the conductor. And so just noticing, yes, I'm actually much more thirsty than I normally would be. Those are all little signs that tell me at the follow-up that you are resonating with the last prescription. And often we can miss those things, or we can dismiss them as not important, not part, because we're focusing on the thing that got us through the door in the first place. And that might still be there, to be honest. It might not, but it may be that the body or the emotional state, our inner intelligence, is actually cleaning house and making it easier for us to actually address whatever has got us through the door by first cleaning up and first eliminating what needs to be eliminated. And we can often miss those little signs if we're not really conscious. So when I am explaining that to clients who are working with me chronically, that's what I ask you to do, is to just be conscious of any of those little changes that actually indicate that something is actually going on for you. And it could just be that you feel like you need more sleep, you need to go to bed earlier, or that your sleep feels more refreshing. You know, that often if, particularly if I'm working with things like thyroid issues or adrenal issues, we can think we're getting loads of sleep, but it's not really very refreshing. So if that changes and our energy actually picks up, even though we kind of are calling for more sleep, that's another little sign that something is changing, something is recalibrating, and that you are responding to the homeopathic prescription. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that today. And also, even if you're not taking a homeopathic prescription, it's just really a game changer, I think, to be aware of those, you know, how tolerant you are, and that it isn't always a constant, you know. Often as women, if we're going through the menopause, for example, we are as we know, our responses to temperature changes can change enormously, and they can seem random, but there's always a pattern, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm working with you as well. So the first thing to do is to just start noticing, well, you know, maybe today I can't tolerate the heat, maybe on this occasion I don't need to have alcohol, or I need to just watch it, I need to actually say no. You know, a lot of the times when we're processing and when we're working towards changing our health status, we can actually become less tolerant of other people's BS as well. We can become, it can become easier to say, no, thank you, that doesn't work for me. It can be a little clumsy if we're not used to it. Normally placid people can find themselves feeling a little bit uncomfortable as they are actually putting down better boundaries. So it doesn't have to be a physical detox, it can be an emotional detox as well. So look out for feeling, maybe a little bit more emotional, maybe less able to hold in a bit of an expression of irritation or anger. Don't judge yourself, just notice those things and bring them back to me when you come back for your follow-up. And so just asking you today to become conscious of all those little shifts, notice them, and ask yourself, well, what could be going on then? What am I doing internally that is taking my energy so that I am less tolerant of things than I normally am? That's it. Enjoy the sun. And if you don't enjoy the sun, find a lovely, cool, shady spot. I highly recommend going and sitting underneath a tree. So much cooler. Or just being inside. It's one of the few times I'm really grateful for the coolness of my old stone house. That's it. Thank you so much for joining me. And as ever, I welcome any comments, and have a lovely week.